Look at your life not just at what's happening, but at what's been done to you. Every weakness you carry was not born with you, it was installed. And it was installed so subtly, so gradually, that you started believing it was your personality, that your softness, your guilt, your hesitation were signs of being a good person. But they weren't. They were signs of a system that molded you into something manageable, something quiet, something easily ruled. They made you apologize for your instincts. They taught you to feel shame for standing up for yourself. They called your silence maturity while they fed off your obedience. They applauded your patience while stealing your boundaries. And they told you it was love. They called it kindness. But it was never kindness. It was control. Control dressed in virtue. Control disguised as morality. Machiavelli understood this centuries ago. People are not kept docile because it's peaceful, they're kept docile so they can be ruled. You were trained to hesitate, to explain, to overthink, to wait for permission. Not because it's noble, but because it makes you easier to predict and easier to break. Weakness was programmed into you like a virus installed in your thoughts, reinforced through repetition, and rewarded by a society that fears independent minds. And the moment you start uninstalling it, the system panics. Because here's what they fear most. The moment you stop apologizing, the moment you stop needing validation, the moment you say no without flinching, walk away without guilt, and act without needing to be understood, that's the moment they lose control of you. And it terrifies them. Because this world isn't designed for powerful individuals. It's designed to reward the agreeable, the soft, the ones who never say no. But here's the truth they never told you. This isn't about becoming cruel, it's about becoming undeniable. This moment, right now, is your firewall. This is where the virus of emotional programming gets burned out. Where the guilt that kept you passive, the fear that kept you frozen, and the doubt that made you shrink all begin to die. Weakness is not a flaw, it's a death sentence in the jungle of power. And whether you like it or not, that's what the world is, a jungle. A brutal ecosystem where intention means nothing and only perception matters. Appear weak, and you attract wolves. Appear too forgiving, and betrayal will feel right at home. Show kindness without strength, and you'll watch them smile while they step on your dignity. The world does not care how kind you are. It respects power, and if you don't project it, someone else will project it onto you and you will play the role they assign you. This is why Machiavelli warned both rulers and ordinary men, do not concern yourself with being loved. Be feared or be forgotten, because weakness is not noble. It is not spiritual. It is a signal. A signal to the powerful that you can be bent, that you will break under pressure. And when people sense that, they no longer respect you. They use you. They walk all over you, all while praising your kindness. You are being manipulated with compliments, broken with words like patient, humble, and understanding. They're not praising you, they're pacifying you. And the price of weakness? It starts slow. First, you're overlooked. Then, you're ignored. Then, you become invisible. And once you've vanished from their respect, betrayal becomes easier. Failure becomes routine, and you begin losing control of your own life one moment of hesitation at a time. You're not weak because you lack strength. You're weak because you've been conditioned to believe that wanting strength is dangerous, that power is evil, that your desires must be softened to make others comfortable. But all of that was a lie. A narrative built to keep you predictable, tame, and easily replaceable. And the worst part? Weakness becomes addictive. You start telling yourself it's compassion, that it's virtue, but it's not. It's fear dressed in moral clothing. And this is why the first step is recognition. Not with pity, not with shame, with clarity. You must name the weakness inside you, without excuse, without mercy. Only then can you start burning it out. Because people don't stay weak because they like it. They stay weak because it's familiar, because it feels safe. But that safety is a trap. Comfort is seductive, but it always lies. From the moment you were born, they surrounded you with soft poison. Be nice, be patient, wait your turn. Your time will come. The world will recognize your worth. These are lullabies, not truths, just songs they sing to keep the powerless quiet. The system doesn't want you strong. It wants you agreeable, because agreeable people are easy to manage. They don't ask questions. They pay taxes. They follow the rules. They die politely. And they never realize their whole life was controlled from the start. But Machiavelli understood something that society will never admit out loud. Power is not handed out. It is taken. It is claimed by those who decide to stop believing the lies, who stop waiting, stop hoping, stop asking, and start moving. And that begins with breaking the 5 most dangerous illusions the system teaches. The first is the lie of moral superiority, that it's always better to be kind, that forgiveness is a virtue, that quiet suffering is a strength. But open your eyes. Who wins in this world? Is it the kindest? The most forgiving? The ones who turn the other cheek? No. The winners are the ones who are strategic, the ones who don't play to be liked, the ones who use kindness as a tool, not as a leash. You don't rise because you're good. You rise because you're useful to power, or you become power yourself. The second lie is the lie of time. Be patient, they say. Your time will come, but time is not your ally, it is your assassin. Every second you hesitate, someone else is taking what should have been yours. The world does not wait, it devours. And while you're hoping, someone colder and more decisive is claiming the spot you were too afraid to fight for. Then comes the lie of equality. We're all the same, they say. All equal. But look, closely, equality is a myth. A sweet illusion sold to keep the majority passive. Some dominate, others are dominated. Some lead, others obey. The truth is harsh. You either led or you are led. There is no in-between. Next is the lie of stability. People stay weak because they crave safety, a steady job, a predictable routine, a life free from risk. But stability breeds softness. It rots ambition. It kills risk-taking. It turns lions into pets. The truth is, power lives in chaos, in uncertainty, in discomfort, and only those who can operate within it survive. And finally, the lie of guilt. They've trained you to feel bad for wanting more, to feel selfish for cutting people off, to feel heartless for walking away. But guilt is a leash hand. Every time you wear it, you hand someone else the authority to control your decisions. You owe the world nothing. Your only duty is to become formidable. Weakness survives because these lies are comforting. But comfort is the slowest, most elegant form of suicide. And if you want to escape it, you don't need motivation. You need strategy. Ruthless, cold strategy. That is the cure. Motivation is temporary, but calculation that lasts, that reprograms you. It doesn't just inspire, it transforms. And that's the next step, becoming strategic, becoming unreadable, moving not with impulse, but with intention. Your every action becomes deliberate, calculated, quiet. Because the cure for weakness is not emotional strength, it's emotional detachment. You must learn to think like a weapon, cold, calm, calculated. You stop reacting, you start controlling. You stop fearing consequences and begin mastering outcomes. You don't ask, you move. And when someone crosses the line, you don't argue, you erase. When something no longer serves you, you don't beg, you cut. This isn't cruelty, this is clarity. It's the birth of control, the beginning of power, the death of weakness. Let me know when you're ready for the expansion of Chapter 3. Attachment is the silent enemy that robs you of power before you ever realize it's gone. It doesn't come with a warning. It doesn't scream. It whispers. It convinces you that needing others is human, that being understood is essential, that being liked means you're doing something right. But what you don't realize is that every time you cling to people, to identity, to outcomes, to comfort you, give up a piece of your control, that string of emotional dependence becomes a chain. You lose your edge, your clarity, your dominance. And the people around you, they sense it. The moment they know you need them, they begin to test you. And if you tolerate it, they don't respect you, they exploit you. You think love makes you strong, but needing someone makes you fragile. You think loyalty makes you noble, but blind loyalty makes you a pawn. You think forgiveness is maturity, but forgiving everyone is how manipulators keep returning. You're not weak because you feel. You're weak because you act on every feeling without examining it. That's the leash. That's the trap. And it's reinforced every time you can't walk away from someone who disrespects you, Every time you can't say no because you're afraid of looking selfish. Every time you give another chance out of guilt. It's not love. It's fear. You are not choosing kindness. You are choosing weakness dressed as virtue. The strongest men are not the loudest, they are the most self-sufficient. They don't chase connection. They don't beg to be seen. They move in silence, not because they don't care, but because they trust themselves more than they trust the world. They have burned the need to be understood. They've sacrificed the need to be liked. And because of that, no one owns them. The man who does not fear loss cannot be manipulated. The man who does not depend on anyone's validation cannot be controlled. That is true freedom. That is real power. But to reach that state, you must let go of everything they trained you to hold on to. You have to kill the version of yourself that was built to survive and rebuild one designed to dominate. That soft, agreeable, always available version of you has to die. The one that apologized for things that weren't wrong. The one that explained yourself to people who never cared to understand. The one that waited for permission to grow. You have to bury him. That version was crafted by fear, crafted by shame, crafted by the expectations of people who only loved you when you stayed small. And staying small is no longer an option. You also have to detach from comfort. Comfort is the real enemy of transformation. It feeds your hesitation. It smothers your urgency. It keeps you numb and busy enough to never confront the raw, brutal truth. You're not where you want to be because you've been addicted to safety. And safety kills hunger. It kills risk. It kills instinct. So you must choose discomfort. You must learn to breathe under pressure, to think clearly in chaos, to act decisively when others freeze. That's what makes you dangerous. Not muscle, not rage, but cold execution when it counts. And the final detachment is the deadliest one, the need for outcomes. You want things to work. You want guarantees. You want to be rewarded for your loyalty, respected for your patience, and loved for your effort. But this world owes you nothing, and the more you expect it to cooperate, the more it controls you. Real power comes from letting go of how things should be and dealing with what is. Power is found in clarity, not hope. The moment you stop caring about how they respond, how they feel, or what they think, you become untouchable. Because when your peace is internal, no one can steal it. When your identity is self-built, no one can distort it. When your mind is your own, you don't react, you calculate. And that's when people feel it. Even before they understand it, they feel the shift. You don't flinch anymore, you don't chase, you don't over-explain. You've gone silent, but not out of defeat. Out of control. They feel the absence of your need, the absence of your availability, and it terrifies the ones who once fed off your emotional responses. You've become the anomaly, the one who no longer engages in emotional games, the one who doesn't argue, doesn't prove, doesn't apologize for creating distance. And because you no longer need attention, your presence becomes louder, more intimidating. They don't know what you're thinking, they don't know where you're going. All they know is they can't pull you back. This is not arrogance, this is authority. Not because you forced anyone to respect you, but because you stopped asking them to. You became unavailable to the world that used to drain you. You stopped offering explanations. You stopped being accessible. You cut access, not out of cruelty, but out of evolution. And the moment you did that, you became a consequence. People don't fear those who shout. They fear the ones who no longer respond. The ones who disappear instead of engage. The ones who erase, not because they're angry, but because they've outgrown the game. When you move like that, you don't have to announce your strength. It's felt in your silence, in your stillness, in your refusal to be shaken. That is the final transformation. Not the man who gets what he wants by force, but the man who no longer needs to force anything, because his absence carries more weight than their presence, because his silence shifts the atmosphere more than their shouting ever could. The rise wasn't loud. It was surgical, quiet, internal. And because it's internal, it cannot be taken from you. Not by betrayal, not by failure, not even by isolation. You don't care who leaves, you don't fear who stays. You only notice who respects your silence, who fears your distance, who watches your moves instead of trying to match your words. That's how you know you've arrived. You no longer speak to be heard, you speak to direct. You don't enter conflict to prove a point. You end it before it begins. You no longer adjust to the world, they adjust to you. You've become emotionally sovereign, fully detached from the people, the past, and the performances that used to control you. And that detachment? That's the weapon. That's the edge. You've risen not for applause, not to inspire, not to be seen. You've risen because you refuse to stay weak. And now the world feels it. Even in a room full of noise, your silence is louder. Even when you're gone, your absence still speaks. You've become the cold reality in a world addicted to illusions. And there is no going back.